Right, guys, we're going to start off talking about the pen tool here. And as you can imagine, if you come over here to the tool palette, you see a couple things that look like a quill pen. And this one right here is the pen tool. If you hit P, it goes right to it. So that's the shortcut is P. Okay. And when we start drawing, we want to look at the fill color and the stroke color. It's sometimes a lot easier to draw with just a stroke color and no fill. You can draw with the fill as well, but for this one, we're just going to draw with the stroke color. I'm going to go ahead and set it to be something bright so I can see it. Let's make it like this bright pink, this magenta color. If I can get it to come on. There we go. Okay. And you can set this, so you can set the size of the stroke up here. A lot of people start with 1. I'm going to start with something a little bit thicker, just so you can see what it does. We talked a little bit about this in class, but so this is kind of like almost like connect the dots, and we're working with anchor points, which when you click once, you get an anchor, and then you see like the path is kind of following here. Well, this is the preview. Sometimes they call this the rubber band, but it kind of lets you know where you're going to go next. And so the next point I want to make is going to be down here, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to hold my mouse down. And what that does is allows me to pull out toggles. So I can actually make a curve. And then I'm going to come over here, make another one. Okay, now let's say I want to let this go because this rubber band is kind of annoying me, right? What I can do is I can either hold Command on the Mac. I can't remember what it is on the PC, but I believe it's Control on the PC, and just click and it will let everything go. Then I'm going to come back up here to my direct selection tool. If I click on that, I can actually click on the path now, and I can modify the handles, or some people call them toggles, but they're actually called handles. Or I can grab the anchor points and move those around as well. Okay. Now I'm going to show you some kind of cool tricks on here, and then we're going to do some exercises coming up here real soon. So I'm going to bump the stroke up using the property panel, and then I'm going to come over here to this tool. It's the width tool. Click on it. It's kind of a funny looking tool. I always think it looks like a turkey with like some handles going through it, but just click on that. And this tool is really cool because you can actually make the width of your stroke bigger, and you can actually make parts smaller too. So if you want this to come into a point, it'll come to a point. Same with this. You can actually grab and make that skinnier too. I'm going to click off to the side so you can see it. To click off to the side, I'm going to hold down Command and click to the side. And let's actually just get a different tool. The direct selection tool, if I click off to the side, will make all those little lines go away. Okay. So this is how we illustrate in Illustrator, is using the pen tool. We can also use shapes and things like that to build out illustrations, but this is kind of one of the good free-form ways to do it, and we'll look at some other ones as well. All right, here we are. We're going to practice the pen tool a little bit. What we have here is 6 different exercises that will really help improve your ability with the pen tool, whether you're a beginner or whether you're more advanced. You know, it's hard to ever get enough practice with the pen tool, and it might be a little bit hard at first, but if you keep working at it, you'll get smooth lines, and everything will work out the way you want it to. We have a few different exercises here that you guys will turn in as your mini project to me. All you have to do is, when you're done with this file, just save it and you can upload it the same way we did the first mini project. Now I'm going to talk about a couple things like navigating these documents. You can see we have 6 artboards here. And a really easy way to do it is to come down here to Artboard Navigation, and you can just pick which artboard you want to zoom in on. So say I wanted to go to 1. Oops. There we go. Say I wanted to go to 1, I could do that. It should go right to it when you click this, but something weird was going on. And so I hit this to go to number 2, but you know, that's not a bad way to get there. Like if I want to go to 4, I could go to 4 like that. Okay, so back to 1. Now, another way I like to navigate my documents is I like to hold down the space bar. If you hold down the space bar, you get this little hand icon. And what this hand icon does is lets you grab and drag through the document. Now, you're not moving anything on the document as long as you're holding down the space bar. It's a really nice, quick way to get around and just get to the place that you want to be at, okay? Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in. And what I like to do to zoom in, I like to use a key command. On the Mac, it's Command plus, and on the PC, it's probably Control plus. If not, try Alt plus. Okay. So I'm going to zoom in here, and now I'm just kind of navigating around with my mouse. But you could also hold down the space bar and move it around too. If you don't like that technique, you can also just come down here and you can actually go, okay, I want to see it. You kind of have to guesstimate, you know, what does 150% look like? That's what it looks like, and then you can kind of center it. Okay? All right, now I'm going to go to my pen tool. Remember, hit P to go to the pen tool. And these are all straight lines, so I'm not going to put any curves in it. All I'm going to do is click on number 1, then I'm going to go to number 2, click on number 2, then click on number 3, click on number 4, then number 5, then number 6, then number 7. Now, before I click on number 7, what I want you to notice is, do you see that little magenta line that's going all the way across there? I can kind of move this and that line comes and it like shows up and disappears. Well, that's called a smart guide. What a smart guide does is it tries to help you line up with other points that are on the artboard. If I were to come up here, it would try to align it with this. Now, there's several points because of these dots here, but that's essentially what that is. If you don't like it and it gets in your way, you can go up here to View, and you can just come down here to Smart Guides, and you'll see that, once again on the Mac, the command is Command U to either hide them or bring them back. Okay, so those are Smart Guides. So I'm going to come down here 7. I'm going to go ahead and click. And what I have now is I have an open path. You could fill this with a color, but sometimes it's a lot better to just go ahead and close the path. And you do that by dragging your pen over here, putting it on top of this other point, this other anchor point. And when you see the little degree symbol or little circle symbol underneath the pen, you can just click, and now it's connected. It's a closed path. Okay? And let's just say, for instance, we wanted to fill this. We could click on the fill here, and the color comes up, and you can choose any color you want to give this a fill. Okay? That's number 1. We're going to zoom out a little bit. So go ahead and come down here if you want to. Make it maybe, let's go to 50%. That way you can see more of the artboard. And remember that little command or that little trick I taught you? Hold down the space bar to get the grabber hand and click and drag down. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and duplicate this up to here just for practice. So what I like to do is go to the selection tool. If you hit V, it'll go right to it. Hover over your object here. Make sure it's selected. If it's not, go ahead and click on it. And hold down the Alt or the Option key. And see these 2 little arrows that it gives you? What that tells me is that when I click and drag this, it's going to duplicate it up here to the top. Now be careful not to let go of the Option key before you let go of your mouse. If you let go of your mouse first, you get a nice duplicate. On to exercise number 2. So I'm going to do the grabber hand again. Hold down the space bar, click, and drag it over. Now let's go ahead and zoom in down here. Another way to zoom in is to grab this little magnifying glass here called the zoom tool. If you hit Z, it would go right to it. And you can click and you can drag to zoom in. Okay, so that's perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and get the pen tool again. And I want to make sure that I have no fill here for the color. So if I come up here to the control bar, click the pull down, the way to get no fill is look for this little icon that's white but has a slash through it, and that means no fill. Okay, and I'm okay with the stroke. We'll leave that the same. Okay, what's kind of interesting about this design is that we have a lot of straight lines in it. Now what you can do is you can actually use these smart guides to help you get straight lines, but what I like to do is a little bit different. I'm going to go ahead and put down my first anchor point. I'm going to click right in the middle, and then if I hold shift, it'll actually force me to keep my line straight. So it's straight, 45 degrees, or straight up or down, doesn't matter. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that up to number 2. I'm going to click. I'm still holding shift because I'm going to go right over to number 3. I'm going to click, and you'll notice that I have to let go of shift because the angle of this arrow is different. So I'm going to go right up here. I'm going to click. I'm going to click, and now I'm going to start holding shift again because I want to have that straight line that goes right to 6. Click, and then go down to 7. Click. And I'm going to go ahead and leave this one open, so I'm going to hold Command, and I'm going to click to the side, and that one is all set. Let's see if we can duplicate this arrow up to the top again. Now remember, we want to zoom out. We've learned a couple different ways to do that, but let's go to like 50%, and then I'm going to hold down my space bar to get my grabber hand, and I'm going to pull down. Now we have to change tools. Which one do you think it'll be? The direct selection tool, which is the white arrow, or the selection tool, which is the dark arrow? Cool. Well, we're going to use the selection tool because it will select the entire path. If we were to choose the direct selection tool, it would actually pick part of the path. And so it's very hard to move the whole thing. So the selection tool, the black arrow, is the easiest one to use. Now once you click on it and it's all highlighted, you can hold down the Alt or the Option key and drag it up again to the top. Notice those smart guides are helping us out there. Okay? Remember to let go of your mouse first and then let go of the Option key. Okay? Now let's move to number 3. Number 3 is a little more complicated. We actually have to pull out handles on this one. So let me get my pen tool, and I'm going to click and start on number 1, but I'm going to click and hold. I'm not going to click and let go. I'm going to click and hold. I'm going to drag my anchor up. And now anchors also, you can hold shift to keep them straight. So I would do that as well. And then let go of your mouse, and you have your anchor set. See how it forces the curve? And that's what we're looking for. Now we can do the same thing here. With number 2, I'm going to click and hold. And I am going to pull out my anchors here. If I hold shift, it'll keep it straight. And you can get a pretty good curve there. Go ahead and deselect. I've showed you a few ways. Another way you can do it is go up to select and hit deselect. And you can see it's also, you got shift command A. Nice. Okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to go down to the practice. I want you to try this exact technique. We're going to go to the orange dot. I'm going to click. I'm going to pull out my anchor. And, the more you do this, the better you get. At first, you may not pull it out far enough. You can just undo it. Just go Command Z or Edit Undo. And remember to hold down Shift to keep your handles straight. Okay, I'm going to let go of my mouse. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to click, hold my mouse down, hold Shift and drag down. And you can see even an old pro like me is still kind of messing it up a little bit. Sometimes you just have to modify it a little bit. I'm going to let go of my mouse. I'm going to let go of Shift. And I don't like how it came out, so I'm going to grab my white arrow, my direct selection tool, and I'm going to come over here. I'm just going to kind of modify it a little bit. Sometimes you have to modify it. And that's pretty close. It's not perfect. Don't worry about perfection. If you wanted to draw a perfect circle, There's another way to do it. You could just get the circle tool, click, hold shift to get a circle, and it's actually very easy to use your use your direct selection tool, click down here and hit delete. That's usually what I would do when I'm doing this, but these are great for practice, okay? So let's keep it up and move on to the next one. Click, drag out your handle, come over here, drag out your handle, and see how you did. And then you can always go select, deselect. And this one's a sideways one. It's the same thing, it's just on its side. Click, drag it out. If you hold shift, it'll be straight. Let go of your mouse, and click, drag it out. Let go of your mouse. Okay? That one actually came out a little bit better. Nice. Okay, let's move on to number 4. Number 4. This one's a little bit tougher. I'm going to teach you a different way to pull out a handle on this one. Let's go over to dot number 1, or spot number 1. We're going to click and we're going to hold. I'm holding my mouse still. If I hold on to the Alt or the Option button while I'm doing it, I can actually just pull out half of the handle instead of both sides. Previously, it would pull out both sides. This time, we just got the one. And if you don't need both sides, you might as well just grab the one. Okay, and remember that forces that curve. We're going to do the same thing here. Actually, I think on this one, we're going to pull out both sides. So we're going to click on 2. We're going to pull it out. That actually helps us on this one. Then we'll go to 3. We're going to click and we're going to pull to this red dot. We'll go to 4. Click and pull to this red dot. Click on 5, pull this red dot, and then we're going to go to 6. Okay. Now remember, it's not perfect, so I can always go up here and grab my white arrow, my direct selection tool, and I can kind of modify it to really fit in between that gray line there. And I'm just going to kind of tweak it and pull it until it feels right. Now there may be some times where we just need to redo it because we didn't do it right, and sometimes it's not salvageable. But the better you get, the more you can get your lines just to go exactly where you want them to go. I've always thought of this as kind of like playing pool. I don't know if any of you have played pool, but in pool you try to play the angles of the table, and so you have to kind of do your best guess on where to shoot the ball to bounce off the right angle of the table to knock the other balls in. Well, this is kind of similar in that way, that you kind of have to guess, where do I pull my handle to get the line to go the way I want it to go on the next shot or the next vector. Okay guys, the next part on this one is to go down below and do the practice with no handle showing. It's a little bit tougher, but I'm going to zoom in and try it. And you can do this as many times as you need to get it right. It's just one of those things that we do to try to get our skills up to par. So I'm going to click and drag out a handle. Remember, you can do it symmetrically like this, or you can do it asymmetrical. And I think this is fine for this one. And I'm just going to do my best to guesstimate where I should pull out the next handle to. And that's really the key. The more you do this, the better you get. My first job out of college, I worked for a software company, and we used the pen tool to actually cut out cars from their backgrounds. And so 8 hours a day, all I would do is the pen tool. And I got pretty good at it, but that was years ago. No, I'm still pretty good, but I could definitely use some more practice. There we go. I'm just going to move this thing around. You might notice that I didn't even go back to my direct selection tool because I'm holding down Command, and Command gives me the white arrow, and I can just kind of come in here and move things around as I need to. Okay, well, it's not perfect, but for the sake of time, we could keep trying this over and over. For the sake of time, I'm going to move on. You do your best to give me the best, smoothest lines that you can, okay? The next level of difficulty, I'm going to go ahead and just use my artboard selection area down here. And I'm going to zoom in here. Another key command I want to give to you is instead of going to the zoom tool, if I hold down spacebar then command, I actually get the zoom tool. And I don't even have to click on it over here. And then remember, spacebar gives you the grabber hand. Okay? What's cool about this one is it gives you really great instructions here. But what I'm going to try to do is just, I'll just try to do it here for you freehand and explain it along the way. If you get stuck, come back to these instructions, okay? Make sure I have my pen tool. I'm going to start here. I'm going to click and I'm going to drag up. I'm going to go over to number 2. Now see that the curve's already started. This is very tricky, but I'm going to try to break it down super simple. So I'm going to click and hold my anchor. So I still have my mouse clicked in. I'm going to drag down to this yellow dot. I haven't let go of my mouse yet. I'm still holding it. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is on, well, Option or Alt, whether you're on a Mac or a PC, you hold down the Option key, and I'm going to swing this handle up to this red dot. Okay. Now once it's up here, I can finally let go of my mouse. Let's try it again. You see what that does is it forces that curve. It gives us a nice point down here where number 2 is. So I'm going to go over to number 3. I'm going to click and hold my mouse down. I'm going to drag all the way down to the yellow dot, still holding my mouse down. I'm going to hold down Alt, and I'm going to swing the handle up here to the red. And now I can let go of my mouse. Now I can let go of Alt or Option. Okay. Same thing with number 4. Click, drag down to the yellow dot, hold down Alt or Option, swing it up to the top. Let go of your mouse, then let go of Alt or Option. Number 5, same thing. I got too excited about those little points on the bottom. I forgot about my curves. They're a little bit wonky there. But like I said, we can use our white arrow. So if we hold down the Command key, go back and get your white arrow, and you can kind of adjust these guys. You can just grab them and move them around. And hopefully they're close enough that you can do it. Now, once again, if you needed a perfect semicircles, I wouldn't do it this way. I would actually draw, I would draw 1, 2, 3. I'd draw 5 circles. I'd cut the bottom half off, and then I'd just join them. And we'll learn more about joining here in a little bit. Okay. So now that you've done this, go ahead and move down to the bottom, and go ahead and complete this one. Exercise number 6. Click here, go to artboard number 6. You can see it's a little bit, maybe a little bit tougher as well. So we're going to zoom in. Remember, spacebar, then Command gives you the zoom tool, and you can zoom right in. And then I'm just using my mouse to move it over. You could also hold down spacebar to get your grabber hand too. Okay, so let's go ahead and give this a shot. And I usually mess this one up, so let's see how I do. Pen tool, I'm going to click. I'm going to drag up to the red dot. I'm going to hold shift to make sure it's straight. And you know what? I see that I already messed up. It's not centered. I'm going to hit delete. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again. Click, hold shift to drag it up. That's a little bit better. It's off a little bit. Then we're going to go over here to 2. And I'm going to click and drag down. I'm going to hold shift. And I'm going to let go of my mouse first, then let go of shift. Now notice it created that curve. We don't want the curve on this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our pen tool. We're going to hover over this anchor point on number 2. And you'll see that it gives us this little, kind of this little arrow underneath, or this little less than symbol. When you see that, you know it's going to modify the anchor point. And watch what happens. I'm going to click one time, and it gets rid of the bottom handle. Right? So now I'm free to hold shift, and I can go over here to 3, and I can click. still holding shift, I'm still holding my mouse down, and I'm gonna hold down Option or Alt, and I'm gonna drag down a handle. That might be where it gets a little confusing, but now remember, you have to let go of your mouse first, and then you can let go of Shift and Alt or Option. Okay, now let go of everything. It's curved. I'm gonna click here. I'm gonna hold down Shift because I want the handles to be straight. I'm gonna let go of my mouse, then let go of Shift. Then I'm coming over here to the anchor point. I'm gonna hover over it, wait till the less than symbol shows up. I'm gonna click to get rid of that, and then I'm gonna come over here to 5. I'm gonna hold Shift to keep it straight. And look, they didn't give us any guides on this one, did they? So we have to remember we're holding Shift to go straight. I'm gonna click with my mouse, and then I'm gonna hold down the Alt or Option key, drag up, and then let go of the mouse first. Come over to 6, click, and drag down. And that is how you do number 6.